It is the technology show where we translate geek into regular speak, and we have Alex with us again this week. Okay, that's just, hold on a second. So off air, I was talking about the fact that I had FOMO when you showed me your iPad mini, the new iPad mini last week on the call. And now you sit there and put an Apple hat on. So for test, we did talk about Apple again this week, but
I just thought for the fun of it, I'll put it on.
Oh, so the technology show proudly sponsored by TCL, an Android device, and Brett doesn't have an Apple shirt. Always good to have you, mate. And
thank you. Always good to be here.
I called today's show "Everyone Should Be Comfortable Being Online," and we'll talk about that later on because it's something that's definitely special and important to both you and I. But let's get on with, well, let me bring up my screen share because it's always nicer to look at that than just us. And we know who you are. You're definitely becoming, it's actually great. I don't even say guest co-host anymore. Co-host, we've definitely elevated you to that. So with Things with a Z and you wearing your Apple hat, I am absolutely blown away by this toy that I've been playing with for the last 2 weeks. So I actually was looking for my cover of my iPad after my cat got hold of it. And you can just imagine what the nice soft material of the outside of that iPad case looks like. And I have to tell you, as much as I love this cat, it's going to lose a couple of its 9 lives very soon because it has a habit of trying to pick the keys out of my MacBook. So it tries to, anyway, back to the Things with a Z. What you're looking at there is the Zag Pro Keys Case. Now, I actually have it here. Obviously, I mean, I can't review something I haven't got. So I have it here. It looks like a normal case. You can see it's got the fold lines. Well, I think you're looking at the back. There's the camera hole. The problem that I have with a lot of keyboard cases, and this is what makes this case so special, and I'm sure there's other cases out there, is that it's not a permanent feature. So I'm going to start off in separate mode. So I need some more room here. I wish I was back in the studio.
Well,
so now I have my iPad. Say that again?
Go back to full screen if you want.
Yes, let's do that for now. Because we don't need the picture up. That's a great idea.
You can even just full screen yourselves if you want.
So there we go. So there's the back of it. You can see it's really well built. It's got a 2-meter drop protection. It's edge to edge. I mean, it's the kind of product you would expect from Zagg. I use Zagg and Mophie products across all my devices. It's got the clip for the pencil at the top. This, as it so happens, is the Zag Stylus. So you got the Apple Pencil. Yeah. Even the design, I'm going to leave the case for now and just quickly talk about this because I got it on my hand.
Does it have a flat edge so it can magnetize onto the...
It does. It has a soft top at the top. So when you just tapping, so you don't have to use the capacitive tip pin. And I haven't used an Apple Pencil in a while. Where's your charging port on the Apple Pencil? Does it charge through the magnetic?
On the original Apple Pencil, you've got to pull the tip off and plug it in. On the Apple Pencil version 2, it just magnetizes to the top and it charges wirelessly at the top there.
So this one is still like the Apple one then.
So that's USB-C or?
Yeah. No, they haven't skimped and gone with the old tech there.
But it still magnetizes to the top of the iPad, right?
Yeah, it still does. So I've been playing with the case and the sound. So let's go back to the case for a second because I think this is something you're really, really going to be impressed with, especially given how many devices you have.
And I have used Apple's Magic Keyboard, so I want to ask some questions, but we'll get to that in a sec.
Right, so I'm going to put this bad boy down, and I'm going to go to the case. So there's the case. Looks like your normal, as you would expect, but it's so far from normal. Okay. Now, first of all, the trackpad. Okay. And it does multi-finger gestures like you can on your MacBook. So 3 fingers pull down, pulls up the window, 3 to the left, scrolls through.
Which the Magic Keyboard does, and if you buy the Magic Trackpad, which I have here somewhere,
remember those are Apple products, right? A lot of the OEM products don't get that stuff right. I've used the Logitech case. I've used what was the other brand? And I'm not knocking the brands.
Doesn't Logitech have the multi-touch on their version of
the latest? I haven't used their latest one, but on my previous version, there were little things that the cases, or not even just cases, just accessories as a whole don't do. So the trackpad is amazing. It's fully backlit, and for the gamer in me, I can change the colors. So I can actually, it's got, I think it's 5 colors. Mine's set to green because I love green. Here's the thing, Alex, that you're going to love. Can you see over here in the top corner on the 1 and the 2 button? There's 2 Bluetooth logos there, right?
So you can switch between your iPhone and iPad.
So I'm working on my iPad. I hit Bluetooth 2 and I move on to my phone. Now, a lot of the devices don't do that, which I thought at first wouldn't be a feature I used, but I can't tell you how many times I actually have used it. I don't know if I was using it because I was reviewing and having fun, or the fact it was just there. And then the last thing is the battery life is unbelievable. It's a 1-year battery life if you use it an hour a day. Now, most people will use more than an hour a day, but let's say you use 3 hours a day. You know what I mean? You've got 4 months until you have to charge it. Now, that I haven't seen from other accessories. I've got a tablet case that I had on my other iPad. I think I bought it off Amazon. You know, it's one of those where you browse, or it was probably like a Black Friday special. So it would have been a brand name. In fact, it might have been a Logitech. I was getting about 20, 25 hours of battery life out of it. So, I know that because if I went away for a weekend, my keyboard would be dead when I got back, you know.
So does it charge via USB-C or micro USB? I mean, everything should be USB-C these days, but sometimes
Yeah. No, they don't mess around.
And one question that I really want to know, see, because I've used the Magic keyboard from Apple. I mean, it's $500, $499, and $529 if you want to get the Magic keyboard for the 12.9-inch iPad. And it does have that floating keyboard design, which is really cool. So the keyboard floats underneath, and you know, when you close it, it's sort of quite thick, as it should be, but it doesn't have any protection for the sides. And so, I mean, that's one thing that the
which is what you have here, right?
Yeah.
So here you've got all your protection. Now, the way it locates is also quite a clever design. That little slot over there, which is obviously where this doesn't need the magneto. This is just the old iPad 10.2. But that slot that you can see over there, it actually has a dedicated locator on the tablet.
Right,
so all you do is you do that. It uses magnets, so it's nice and strong, and then you fold the cover to one of the two configurations to make it stand.
Yeah.
But as I said, one of the big things for me now, I know the Magic. Is it called the Magic keyboard? The
Magic keyboard,
yeah. I know that separates as well because it's using MagSafe and that's great. But if you buy a keyboard for an iPad cover, it's an all-in-one. That's what it is. And I used to find myself that when I was at home, I would take it out of the keyboard, and then it's not protected because I don't have protection.
Absolutely.
Because I don't want the keyboard. If I want to work, I'm going to work on my MacBook. Now I can come home while I'm sitting at the office. Sitting at my desk. I just take the keyboard off, put it on charge, do what I want with it. But I now have it as a tablet, and it's protected. If I do bump it off the table, it's going to bounce off the floor. Yeah. So I must say that I am really, really impressed with this. You know, it's an accessory, and I think the most important thing. I think I put a picture of the pencil. Yeah, the Stylus.
So the questions are.
Yes.
They're two separate accessories, right? The keyboard case and the Stylus.
They're separate. Yeah. I got both.
So and does the Stylus match the points of pressure and the double tapping capability of the Apple Pencil 2?
It does. I think that Apple has some software in the background that makes the pencil do a lot more, personally, because I have worked with an Apple Pencil. I'm not an artist. Anyone that knows me well knows I can't even draw a stick figure. Like, I really can't. So I'm not, I wouldn't really care about the pressure and all that. But it's accurate as hell. You do when you push. It doesn't. What do you call when the wrist doesn't? When you lean on the screen, it doesn't.
Oh, yeah, palm rejection or touch rejection.
Palm rejection. So all of that works.
Yeah. So the question is, how much is that Stylus? Because at Big W, you can buy a laser branded Stylus that looks like a clone of this, but I think it's got micro USB for $69. I don't know what pressure sensitivity it has, but if you need a cheap Stylus, that is one alternative. So how much is this one?
From what I know, and it obviously depends where you buy. From eBay through to Amazon, it's like $69 to $80. So
yeah, these retailer in Australia, they're $199, I think, or could even be more. That could be the price for the version 1 styles. And how much is the case?
The case also varied. It was about $130 to $170, and I think the variance is on the size.
Okay, because that's good, because from memory the Logitech case is about $230 or so, which is about half the price of the Apple case, which is about $500. So if this is $130 to $180, depending on where you buy it, not including delivery charges, that's pretty good.
Yeah, I think you might find you'll probably top out at like $200 on the 12-inch for the.
That's still but that's still cheaper than Logitech. And the funny thing is, Zagg is a brand I believe is owned by Logitech these days.
I'm not aware of that, because I know that Zagg and Mophie are the same brand.
Let me check. Maybe I'm wrong. Who owns Zagg?
No,
I thought they bought it, but let's have a look.
Anyway,
so no, Eversell. Eversell is the company that owns it. So
yeah,
who bought Zagg?
I've used a lot of their products over the. I mean, I've used their chargers. I've used their cases, their screen protector. I've done, with TCL and the Rabbitohs, we did a whole campaign together with them with what they call the Invisi Shield, and I've put it to the test. I mean, I've dragged my fingernail right across the screen. I've taken a key and done it, and it self-heals. So I mean, when they launch a product, they launch a good product, and I think
Zagg has been out for a while, and I've always liked them.
Yeah, but the nice thing about it as well with the Zagg accessories is that they're not the most expensive, they're not the cheapest, but they do what they're supposed to do, and there's a bit of thought that goes into it. As I said, the fact that this detaches with its own casing. I mean, it could have been easy for them just to make the cover like everyone else did, using MagSafe technology. It sticks to the back, it folds over. It is what it is. It also turns off the same as it does on a normal case using the magnet. So when you close down the lid, because I like that feature as well. I like to be able to close the lid like I do with my MacBook.
Yeah,
whereas with some of the other ones, you have to use a switch. You've got to actually turn off the switch. And if you don't, I suppose eventually it would go into sleep mode, but it's still eating battery life. And it's still looking for Bluetooth the whole time because it's pinging. So well done. As I said, I am a big fan of the Zagg and Mophie accessories. There's a couple of other brands that have, but those are the only ones I've ever really played with or got. At that price point, I love Apple. I really love Apple. Everyone knows I love Apple. But the price of their stuff, you and I, even with our watches and our watch bands, I mean, you can buy an Apple Watch band for, well, I don't know, I've never bought one. Or I can go into Wish or eBay or whatever and buy the same looking watch band for a fraction of the price. And when I'm bored of it, I throw it away and I don't feel guilty.
This is the wonderful thing about being the market leader. Everybody makes accessories for you in such numbers that there are even inexpensive ones churned out by the millions by Chinese factories that you can buy on Wish. And so that's definitely one of the strengths that Apple has. A lot of the other smartphone makers, especially the smaller brands, they need to include a case in the box. Otherwise, you'll never find one. You've got to have one from the moment you open it up. Otherwise, you could drop it and damage it. But with Apple, you've got endless choice. And,
look, I must say that's probably also, a lot of people have said to me, what kind of a techie are you that you always use? I've always used an iPhone as my primary device. Surely if you were a techie, you'd be Android. The answer to that is you're right, because you can do so much more with an Android device. There's just one problem though. With Apple, it's one product, one OS, one version of it at that time, and a plethora of things that I can add to it. Whereas if you buy, a TCL, there aren't a lot of accessories for a TCL. Does that make the phone bad? Hell no, they're brilliant phones. And I'm not saying that because they sponsor a show. Their phones are good. Does that make Huawei bad? Does that make Oppo bad? Probably the only Android that would come close to this type of opportunity of having accessories would be Samsung.
Yeah. Samsung has the richest non-Apple ecosystem of accessories, the buds, the watch, the computers, the tablets. I mean, Samsung's computers and tablets can mirror your Samsung phone on their screen.
Yeah, and cool.
Yeah, and that's something that Apple doesn't do. At least, I mean, you can mirror your tablet or iPhone onto the screen of your Mac, but it's a one-way. You can't interact with it. You can just look at it.
Yeah, I must say that is one feature I do miss with being in the Apple environment. So it's not that I'm against Android. I like the simplicity and the uniformity of everything. I know that whatever device I pick up, everything that I'm working on is there. I don't have to, and everyone's going to say, oh, you can do it with Google, the Google Cloud. Yes, you can. But there's a lot more that you have to do to get it to do that. That's the difference.
Two things, right? Once you go Mac, you never go back.
Can't go back.
and when the iPhone first came out, they called it the Jesus phone. That was somebody from The Verge or something. They were blaspheming and calling it the Jesus phone because it was this amazing device. But I always thought of it as like the light and the dark side of the Force. And so for me, it was the Jedi phone, right?
I tell you what, let's just show people that we're not anti anything that's not Apple. In my opinion, anyway, iPhone 1 was a failure. It missed so many features that it should have had. It was a beautiful device from a touch and feel, but leaving out text messaging, and then iPhone 3 didn't have MMS.
I've got the iPhone 1. That's the 3GS case. That's the iPhone 4 case. The iPhone 1. Steve Jobs' ambition for the iPhone 1 was to get 1% of market share globally, just 1%. And in 2008, he achieved that. By September, I was one of the first people in the world to take advantage of two hackers that were trying to jailbreak the iPhone. And the day that they did it, the second it became available, I was in San Francisco at a VMware event, and one of the hackers gazumped the other and made the hack for the original iPhone available. I downloaded it to my PC at the time. It was still, I hadn't gone to Mac yet. It wasn't 2011 yet when I did go to Mac. And I downloaded it for 20 minutes. All this white text like the Matrix was coming down on the phone. It was all these Linux commands. And in the end, it rebooted, and I went downstairs to the bar, asked if somebody had a T-Mobile or some other SIM beyond AT&T. And somebody said, why? And I said, well, because I've just jailbroken the iPhone. So this crowd came around. We put the SIM in because, San Francisco is right next to Silicon Valley. It's part of it. And there was a cheer when it said T-Mobile, because T-Mobile was not AT&T.
Not AT&T.
And in November, already by that time there was a Cydia app store. There was a third part. Well, maybe the Cydia app store came later. But there was a guy who set himself a challenge to write an app a day for 30 days in November. Now, towards the end of it, he was complaining that, I wish I'd never said I'd do an app a day. But I remember downloading all those apps. There was a little thing with the ants crawling across the screen like a screensaver. There was a Steve Jobs who had his head like that.
Yeah, I remember that.
Bobble his head. There was another thing, some sort of Santa game where, and the iPhone couldn't do. I mean, it could do SMS from the beginning. It couldn't take videos. It was only photographs at the beginning. Didn't have copy and paste at the beginning. Right. But the jailbreaking community quickly came out and introduced a lot of those things, which Apple then subsequently introduced itself. And from the point of view that you say that iPhone was a failure, I don't think so. I mean, Steve Jobs set a very modest goal. He wanted 1 million.
So as I said, from
1% of the market share, and he got it.
From a hardware point of view, it was a failure in that it didn't do what phones did. But
I wrote a great article at the time about I was a big fan of the Nokia N95. It did everything the iPhone did.
Yeah.
It had the 5-megapixel camera. It had a music player that was rocked. It had, one thing that Nokia could never do.
About a 5-megapixel camera. I don't think even selfies are that low anymore.
No. But the one thing that the Nokia Symbian operating system could never do was play a track seamlessly with the next track. So I had a few of these Wild FM and Ministry of Sound albums where each track was mixed in seamlessly into the next track. And on a Nokia device, there was always that 2-second gap. They could never make it seamless. But I loved my Nokia N95 and the N98. And
so I used to say that the day that Nokia, because I launched the Lumia, I was part of the agency that launched it when I was in South Africa. I said the day that Nokia comes out with an Android phone, I'll switch from iPhone. It took them too long. That was the problem, because one of my mates said to me, okay, well, here we go. And it was called the N1 or the N9 or something came out. It was in Kenya, actually. It was a dual SIM Android-based phone. And one of my mates phoned me very cockily and were like, here we go, it's now. I was like, it's too late. It's taken too long. You know, I'm now invested. Anyway, so business tech news. Did you see this yesterday?
I wrote an article about it. I said, was this another configuration error change, or was this the beginning of the hackopocalypse?
It was ridiculous. You know, I write a blog every day, and I always share it on LinkedIn. So I use a tool for sharing. And I got this black LinkedIn logo, and I'm thinking, okay, that's interesting. And I'm pushing the button. There's been no communication. I haven't heard anything from LinkedIn.
I tweeted LinkedIn. I said, when are you going to make any mention of this?
They need to man up. They need to tell us what happened. You can't just have the biggest business network in the world go down and think you can get away with it. Like,
the outage was about half an hour. It was about half an hour or so.
Yeah, it was. Well, on Australian time, it was like at 10 in the morning. So I don't know what time that was in San Francisco, where, you know, but I was frustrated, and I needed a phone number that was in a chat on LinkedIn, and I couldn't get there. And it was just so. Yeah, I learned two things yesterday. Make sure you write down everything you need before you need it. We'll save it in multiple locations. And then we're waiting. We'd really like to know what the hell happened. Unfortunately, that did happen. Now, as a gamer and someone involved in
I was going to say, October's Cybersecurity Awareness Month is brought to you by Twitch.
This is how you handle it, right? The information got hacked, got leaked. Straight away, they jumped on and started talking about it. This is what was lost. They don't believe they lost sensitive data, blah. They always take that stance. Here's the one thing that I'm going to advise the listeners. And just by the way, you know, because I know a lot of people don't necessarily watch the show, they listen to it. So I have a picture of a Twitch logo up with the word hacked. But just some advice I'd like to share with everyone. Twitch is owned by Amazon. I mean, if you didn't know that, not everyone would know that because not everyone's in gaming. And if you didn't know that and you game, you should definitely get an Amazon Prime account because you get a free game and free content every single month because of this. Anyway, my suggestion to you is if you have an Amazon account, please go and change your passwords because most people would sign into Twitch from Amazon if they went that route, not the gamers. The gamers come in with Discord and everything else. But it's something that you should do regularly anyway. You should always be refreshing your passwords and not your dog's name or your cat's name or the name of your company or something like that. Like put something or use the smart. That's the one thing that Apple really does well is when they generate those strong keywords and then remember it across the whole platform, the whole ecosystem rather.
And if you I haven't done it yet on a Windows PC, but apparently you can get an iCloud keychain extension for Google Chrome so that you can use.
Would you trust it though, Alex? I mean, I trust Chrome and I use Chrome. I find it very slow and painful. But would you move, let's call it the keys to the kingdom, right? I mean, your iCloud is your kingdom. And Apple's so far so good, touch wood, has been pretty robust. So is Google. But would you share, because I mean, imagine now if you got hacked, and most people use both Google and Apple in some way, some form. I don't know if I would share the two personally.
Look, it's called
Apple.
The thing is, it's not being sent over to Google. If you get iCloud for Windows, iCloud 12.5, it has an iCloud Keychain Password Manager app for Windows users. So you can put an extension into Microsoft Edge and Google Chrome because they're both based on Google's Chromium open source browser. And so Edge and Chrome both get it. So, you know, in theory, I mean, Microsoft and Google should have zero visibility into your passwords. It's a plugin made by Apple. Well, it's a plugin made by Apple. I mean, Apple shouldn't be allowing its extension to be being read by those.
To hide. My only recommendation is that when you have an account that's linked to some form of financial, mechanical transaction mechanism, like Twitch, you pay for if you're coming on Amazon Prime. Just a good rule of thumb: every 3 months or so, change your password, and it can be a simple change. You can keep components of it if you don't want to go the smart password route with X, Y's, and the self-generated. just change little things, change an O to an O, like the number O, or the hash, the 1 to a hash, an exclamation. But it is a good practice to keep logging out of devices and check. I actually flatten my MacBook every 6 months. I wipe it out. So it gets rid of all the old fuddy-duddy things that I downloaded and didn't need, and then I use that time and I change my passwords as well. But at least they owned up to it. As I said, it wasn't anything major, but it is scary when an Amazon-owned company gets hacked, because there's a lot more that goes on with Amazon.
And also, when you say it wasn't anything major, I mean, it was all of their Twitch clients, all the apps.
Well, it was mainly about what the guys are earning as well.
An unreleased Steam competitor. I mean, it was a lot of data that was stolen, so it was pretty major.
It wasn't the client's credit cards though.
Apparently that was a third-party processor.
Yeah. So I mean, I think they shared what the top Twitch shoutcasters are earning as well, what the streamers are earning.
Yeah. Well, talking about personal info, I mean, there was an article on news.com.au yesterday, and it's there today as well, warning you that if you get a phone call and they say that they're from the Australian Border Force, and they're trying to tell you that you have received a package that has illegal contents inside, they're going to ask you for your bank account details and a photo. They want to verify that it's you, and it's basically all a scam so they can try and open up accounts in your name and try and have enough info for the Know Your Customer checks for opening accounts, which could be for cryptocurrencies and all sorts of things. So, I mean, anything that is dodgy like that, just hang up.
My simple rule of thumb is when I get an email, even if it is a real email from Ozpost or anyone, and it says just click here to whatever, I open a browser, and normally I actually open in incognito mode first and check, and then I open it, because incognito won't remember your passwords and that. But I then check to see that it actually is a legit thing that Ozpost was asking for, or a tracking number, whatever. But again, rule of thumb, it's so easy to just click on a link in an email. Please don't. And it's horrible that we have to live like this, but I'd much rather have the inconvenience of 3 more seconds of copying and pasting into a browser,
or going to the Australian Post website and getting the phone number from their website rather than a link. The latest Flubot scam is that the guys who created the scam know that everyone's been warned, don't click on a link. So now if you do click on the link, because people still click on the link on their phones, a message pops up saying, you've been infected by Flubot. You have been infected, big in red. And the button to click then is the button to download the patch to protect you from Flubot, which of course is the app to infect you with Flubot. So the bad guys
are it's just really terrible. And I know so many people that are really switched on that have been hit. I've been caught once or twice, or luckily haven't converted and not clicked on the obvious. But there's been you're busy, or I'm talking to my son, or I'm on a phone call and trying to work. When you're not really focused. It's so easy
streaming, got work pressures, everyone's working from home, the delivery at the door from Coles or Woolies, and you're sort of in a fluster and you tap something without realizing.
That distracts me, because we've got a really loud buzzer in our house, and I can't. I've got the Google Nest Cam, but I can't take out the whole other buzzer system. So they push that system. There's buzzer rackets through the house, and I just want to deal with it quickly. And whatever I'm working on, I can hit a button. So just be careful out there. I mean, if companies as big as Twitch can get hit, then you can get hit too. I think that's just the lesson. Okay. That was the only photo I could really find to try and show what I wanted to convey in this little section of how fake people on Instagram really are. And this is not about body shaming or anything. It's just, these are your Instagrammers. Now, this is the sad world that we live in. Okay. This is Michaela. Michaela does not exist. Michaela is an AI bot, and she has 3 million followers. I mean, do you read her bio? She's a 19-year-old robot living in LA, blah, 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 blah. Now, how sad is this world that we now have to have influencers? I go like this, influencers, because the company that makes Michaela, and they make other bots as well, they're earning money from this. The product placement, the click, and so on. Now, she's not a great AI, and she talks, and there's videos of her, and there's pictures of her posing with her friends and blah, blah, blah. And there's a whole life story of her. I mean, she's done what? 1,130 posts. I'm just concerned, and she even has the official blue tick. That's the scary part. I've been a journalist and involved in production and technology my whole life, and I don't have an official blue tick. Yes, I don't have the followers that these fake bots have, but yeah, like, how sad are we that we have to follow an AI robot on Instagram?
Well, I'm sure her creators are very proud, but
there's the marvel of what they've done is awesome. Do you remember Sophia when they brought Sophia to Australia? I don't know if you were like.
I interviewed her.
Okay, I also got to interview her. It's Ben someone was the guy that. Anyway,
some of the comments on my YouTube interview were saying all sorts of funny things about what Ben must have been doing to that robot when nobody was looking.
I got the same comments. I think we share the same trolls. But the point that I'm making is, and even here with Michaela and all the other AI, well done to the developers. Like, it's this type of tech that we need when it comes to movies, games, and so on. But when you actually have to put it on Instagram and it earns them revenue, so well done to them. But then people follow and comment and like they talk to this. It's not real. It's not a real person.
Well, I mean, I mean, look, I agree with what you're saying, but in a way, it is real, and there's nothing stopping them from putting, a modern version of the Creative Labs Dr. Spitzer or the Eliza program, so you can talk to Michaela and interact with her, even though it's a robot or an AI. It's no different to Barbie or any other brand name gadget or device that people obsess on.
When I was moaning about this originally, it's a very good point you bring up. So when I was moaning about this originally, like, oh my God, the world is so sad that we're here. Someone I saw you mention Barbie, and they said, but Mattel has a Barbie page and Barbie's this and that. There's a difference though. It's a product that gets staged, photographed, and look at Barbie at the pool today, and it's Barbie in a swimming.
But this is staged and photographed virtually. I mean, they'll probably end up making a Michaela animatronic robot, that you can buy Barbie-sized, and by the end of the decade, you'll have a little walking, talking Michaela robot. If anyone still remembers her by then.
I'm just worried that the world is becoming so introverted and so dependent on its screens. And I mean, COVID's obviously played a big part of that we feel the need to aspire or engage or follow artificial intelligence. That's my only bugbear with this. And what's nice about it, at least now we're not doing the body shaming that they do with the models that touch themselves up, and we go back to where's this was what unfortunately young girls are aspiring to, and they don't look like that, and then they get shamed, and so this is better because she's not real, so therefore you can never look like her, and therefore you don't have to worry about not looking like her. So from that, it's a positive. I'm just worried that from a humanity point of view, we've become so disconnected from the real world that we aspire to follow and live and breathe on what the Michaelas of the world are doing. But yeah, well done to their company that created her and everything. And the AI is good. It moves and it talks and it does everything. Anyway, moving along. This next slide is very quick because this is coming out next week. This is the new Pixel 6 and Pixel 6 Pro. You and I were very fortunate to have
on October 19 in the US, October 20 in Australia.
Correct. What I can say, and I'd love to invite you now here for 2 weeks' time, whenever it is, we can have a chat about this, because we did get some inside information, and I'll leave it at that. I was impressed. I think there's some really exciting stuff coming, but there's the teaser. And yeah.
Well, we already know there's two phones. It's been announced. There's a Pixel 6 and a 6 Pro. So that and it's Google's own Tensor processor. So like Apple,
that was exciting.
Google has made its own chip, which is good because the chip is the brains of the phone. It allows them to control the experience, differentiate it from everybody else using a Qualcomm processor. It gives them the ability to have smarts. And look, we'll be able to, there'll be a big reveal from Google on the 19th in the US and 20th in Australia. And suffice to say that, these are impressive devices that is going to be an excellent challenge to Apple, Samsung, Motorola, Lenovo, everybody out there, because competition is good and it pushes everybody to do a
That's what's so
better
nice,
job
though, right?
with their next phones.
When
And it's also the operating system as well. The operating system is also a fundamental part, and Google controls Android. So it's great to see this, and definitely looking forward to being able to talk about it next week.
Well, the reason I brought it up as well, I mean, besides the fact that it is news, I mean, we've seen even the adverts on TV now. The fact that all these companies are moving into their own silicone, I wonder what that means for the actual silicone companies, you know, your Intels and your AMDs. And just to expand on that, I saw an announcement. In fact, you might have even written an article on Sony looking at doing a deal with Taiwan to build a factory, not Taiwan, sorry, a Taiwanese chip manufacturer,
TSMC,
to support Sony's need and demand for chips. This is like really become the new currency. You know, Apple got the shits that they weren't getting what they needed, so they built their own. Google's now gone the same route, building them, and I'm pretty sure we're going to see their chip move into their Chromebooks and all the other products that they'll make, and all the other devices that they make.
So it should.
What happens to Intel and AMD? I mean,
look, like Intel, AMD, Qualcomm. Qualcomm is the one that makes most of the processors. There is a company in China called Unisoc who makes the chip called the Tiger, and the T610 is the chip that is in Nokia's new $349 10.4-inch tablet with a 2K screen. And you know, the Unisoc T610 processor came out in 2019. On the website that talk about it, it's listed as a low-end chip, although you know Nokia talks about the up to 15 hours of battery life you can get from this device, and how they've got Google Kids Space and Google Entertainment Space, with Kids Space being a thing from Google to bring games and books and educational things for kids. And you know the competition is that the iPad for $499, $150 more, has the A13 Bionic. Now that's no longer the fastest chip. The fastest is the A15, but the A13 is a 2-year-old chip that is miles ahead of the Unisoc, Tiger 610, which is a Chinese chip made in China. So Intel has already said that they want to be able to make chips for other people. The Pat Gelsinger, the new CEO of Intel from about a year or two ago, even cheekily suggested to Apple that Intel would love to make Apple's forthcoming future processors, because Intel was positioning itself as a fab that could do that. They're spending 20 billion, I think even up to 80 billion or something, because they want to build fabs in Europe as well, but they're building a couple of these major fabs in Arizona. It's going to take them several years to build it, but the chip shortage we're going through now, I mean, in a few years' time, there'll be a chip glut. But I mean, Sony has not been able to sell anywhere as near as many PlayStation 5s as it wanted to, because they can't get enough chips. Same with Microsoft with the Xbox. I mean, the car manufacturers are leaving certain features out of their cars because they don't have the chips to be able to do them. A lot of the car manufacturers said back in 2020, look, lower the amount of processors that we need. XYZ company that makes it, and then when all these other companies, the phone companies, said, well, we need chips, and then the car manufacturer said, well, start making it for us again. TSMC said, sorry, you have to be back in line. And of course, you have all the logistical problems, the shortages, the problems with getting raw materials around the world. I mean, it's a big problem. So the Chinese want their own sovereign manufacturing capability. There's no surprise Japan wants it, and there's no surprise
what happened in China.
Intel and others are trying to get plants in America and in Europe. I mean, it's a shame we don't have one in Australia. But if we did do one several years ago when Intel was thinking of it, by now it would have been out of date. So it's a good thing we don't.
I'm going to say it was probably a good thing that because we will build one, because every country in the world it's going to be like printing money. But I'm glad, as you said, that we didn't do it originally all those years ago, because the tech would be defunct now. The way they've moved.
I mean, yes and no. One of the things.
I said now we've got a chance to join the chip manufacturing at the latest onwards with these custom.
That's true. But I mean, wherever you start, it's always going to start aging straight away. And if we did have a fab here, some of those older chips can still be used quite well in washing machines or cars or other devices. I'm sure there would have been a market for it, and the world would have been very glad that Australia had a plant, but we don't.
Right. Well, here's something I want to chat about before we run out of time on the show. So for those that don't know, both you and I are directors of ASCCA, the Australian Seniors Computer Club Association. And that's, as I said, why I named the show, everyone should be comfortable online. And we spoke about fraud and all those good things. So it's our 23rd annual conference this year. And you're our conference coordinator. So I thought, let's chat about it, because we've got just under a month to go until the show.
Just under a month, yeah. It's the 23rd annual technology conference for seniors. In many years, we've had it at the Ridges World Centre in the middle of the CBD of Sydney. But of course, last year we had COVID and we couldn't have it. This year, of course, it's still COVID, although we're having Freedom Days opening up in Sydney or in New South Wales. A lot of regional New South Wales isn't yet free or open, and a lot of other states are still not allowing people to either leave, or if they let them leave, they're subjecting them to 2 weeks of quarantine going back, or in the case of Queensland, not letting people back at all, which is really quite terrible. And so we had about 150 people last year, and this year we're doing it online again. We're going to have Charlie Brown talking about the future. We're going to have Nokia as one of our sponsors, giving away a series of smartphones and hopefully one of their tablets, where we'll have NBN giving an update. We'll have the CSIRO talking about sensors for home automation for seniors and how you can have an automated home with the latest technology. This is not just about talking to your Google Home, but having advanced sensors that keep people in their homes and independent for longer. We're going to have a session all about cybersecurity. I think that's coming from the e-Safety Commissioner. We're going to have a section on leaving your digital legacy, both in terms of retirement planning and those sorts of things, if you're not quite retired and a sort of senior retiree yet, but also from the point of view that you are a retired senior and you need to make sure you have all of your passwords and your share portfolio and bank accounts and all that other information available in a format so that your partner or your next of kin are able to easily get access to that information once you have departed for the next world, and they don't have to go through a giant, enormous pain to try and get access to that information once you're gone. Because I know of a number of people whose partner has died, and then to get access to share accounts and other things they were able to do it, but it was a Herculean effort to do so. So the event starts at 9 a.m., finishes at 4:35, after which we have a 1-hour AGM, and it's $30 a ticket to go. If you go to ascca.org.au or just bit.ly/ASCCA 2021, bit.ly/ASCCA 2021 to buy a ticket. We are a not-for-profit charity. We've been around for 23 years. I've been a director for the last couple of years, since 2019, and the closing keynote speaker of the conference for the last 7 years. This might be the 8th year. And you don't have to be a senior. The information is excellent for any age group. If you've got kids and they're at home, they're not studying that day or whatever, get them to watch with them. We will be making some of the sessions available on YouTube, but only those people who purchase a ticket will be in the running to win one of 10 copies of Acronyms Cyber Protect Home Office, which protects you from ransomware, malware. You can back up your computer to the cloud or 1 terabyte of cloud space or external disk, and it protects your Zoom and Teams video conferencing on Windows computers, and one of several Nokia smartphones, and there's other prizes, and you need to be there on the day to win, and it's very educational, very easy. You can log in from any device and just have an enjoyable day learning about the latest in technology and how to protect yourself.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing all of that, Alex. As I said, it's definitely something that we're both quite passionate about. And I think, just to reiterate, you don't need to be a senior to attend. There will be information that everyone can learn from. So if you're just
Brett
interested
and
in general
are
tech,
future seniors, but we're not seniors yet, and we're very happy to be involved in and help the community and help everybody learn about technology. But if you can teach a senior, you can teach anybody.
Do you think I can go into a shop and say, I don't have a senior's concession card, but I will be a senior one day. Can I have the discount now?
He'll tell you to come back in 20 years.
Right. What else have we got? It's just the featured shop inside the SMEmall.org. It's Halloween costumes. I think there's over 3,500 costumes to choose from. Hopefully you'll get it in time. We're only, 20 days away? Not even. 11, 12 days away. What is the date? The 14th? 15, 16
days.
Today is
the 14th of October.
Yeah, so 16 days away from Halloween. I love Halloween. I won't embarrass myself and bring up some of the photos of the makeup and dress-ups I've done over the years, but definitely a festival I enjoy. And I've been fortunate enough to be in some of Americans' better suburbs over Halloween as well. And you really have fun and get to see some cool stuff. So that's our featured. If you don't have a store in the SME mall, it's free. Come open a shop, sell products and services. SMEmall.org. And that brings us to the last part of the show. Does Brett really know? So I'm going to turn this off because last time you were on the show, Alex, I changed this to Does Alex Really Know? And we did a whole Android show. And you actually did very, very well. Look at that. Look how well prepared. Can you stop bragging about the fact that you have an iPad mini? I have to kick you off I have to just kick you off the show straight away.
It's beautiful. It's beautiful.
Does Brett really know?
Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. So this sounds like a trick question, and it sort of is, but what does ROM stand for?
ROM is Random Operating Memory.
It stands for Read-Only Memory. You're thinking of RAM,
random access,
which was random access memory.
Read-only memory.
Yeah. So there was two things. There was RAM, which was the storage that the brain could think in, and ROM, which was at the time, there was even something called EEPROM back in the early days. It was erasable, programmable, read-only memory. So you could erase it. So it wasn't read-only at all, right?
I've got to find my buzzer now and buzz myself. So where's my buzzer?
The question is, why do phone makers talk of RAM and ROM? And the example is here. This is from an Oppo. So they've got a 12 gigabyte of RAM, and then they say 256 gigabyte of ROM. Now, I've said to these guys, ROM stands for read-only memory, right? So why can't you just say storage, or capacity? Why do you have to say read-only memory? And the answer is simply because they're lazy, or they've just gotten used to calling it ROM, and that's just basically what.
You didn't ask me that as a question. Was that just that's still part of the first one where ROM?
Well, it was sort of a bitch and moan about why. I mean, if it's read-only, just imagine if you had 256 gig of read-only memory, you couldn't load an app onto your phone.
Yeah, that's
okay.
Anyway. Well, I buzzed out on that one, so I'm one down. What does AMD stand? I know they make chips, but it's ARM. No, I'm getting nailed on this one. It
stands for Advanced Micro Devices.
Well, but I am right. They make chips. I mean, that's
they make processors. Yeah. And if you go to AMD.com, you can look at that 5 years of Ryzen CPUs. There's a great video interview there between the chief marketing officer and the technical marketing product manager, and you can learn all about the 5 years of AMD Ryzen, which has really kicked Intel's butt.
The Ryzen processors RYZE, or the American ZEN.
Yeah. And the thing is that over most of the early 2000s and even the 2010s, Intel coasted along on this sort of 5 to 10% of improvement with each version, each version. And there's a reason why, your computer with a fourth, fifth, or sixth generation Intel processor was very little different to the 7th, 8th, 9th, or 10th. I mean, now they're on the 11th generation, and there's a real, they really started to, they brought Core i9s, they brought...
But that's unfortunately what Nokia did as well. They also cruising on thinking, no one will ever eat our lunch. We're the biggest phone in the world. Yeah.
Right, so the next question is, what does ARM stand for?
Oh, man, you're killing me. I don't know. I
know
that ARM
is the architecture that is in
product inside the chip.
Yeah. So, I mean, the processors used by Apple, Samsung, Huawei, all those guys, and Qualcomm, they're all ARM processors. ARM stands for Advanced RISC Machines, and RISC stands for Reduced Instruction Set Computer, which was a much simpler, much lower power form of programming or designing a chip compared to Intel chips, which use CISC, Complex Instruction Set Computer. And in the end, there was always a debate back in the 80s and 90s which would win. Well, it's arguable that ARM has won. There are many more ARM processors in the world today than there are x86 Intel processors, by virtue of the fact that every smartphone and tablet and cars and all this.
The technology show translating geek into regular speak. You're doing a good job, because I'm learning tons. It's still on.
When is Apple's next major event?
It's normally like February, March. It'll be early next year.
Well, you've missed out on the news from this morning. Apple's next event is called Apple Unleashed. It's on October the 19th at 10 a.m. in California, which means 4 a.m. on October it's October 18th in the US, October 19th in Australia at 4 a.m. And they will be unleashing, the rumors say, the M1X processor, the advanced current M1,
the new processor for the MacBooks,
the 14 and 16 inch, and Apple's next major operating system and other things.
I didn't think it was going to be an event. So
it's an event. It's another event, and they probably will also launch the new AirPods as well. That's what the rumors say. So when is Samsung's next major event?
That's also coming up now. I don't know the exact date, but that's November.
No, they just announced today. I'm just looking for it here because I had it here. But they just announced today that it is Samsung Galaxy Unpacked 2. It's Thursday, October 21 at 1 a.m. in the morning. So that only came out
both straight after the Pixel and straight after Apple.
Yeah, so Apple is going to be Apple, Google, and Samsung all launching new things all around at the same time. Okay, next question. There's only a few more. What does the word Ubuntu mean in South Africa?
It's not together. It's learning or together.
According to and there was a question that I missed. It stands for a quality that includes the essential human virtues, compassion, and humanity.
Together. So it's bring everyone together.
It's a step. Yep. No, you got that one. And the one I missed was the one.
So I can host a little bit. I actually have met Mark Shuttleworth. I actually got to meet him in Spain at Mobile World Congress. Huh? He was launching Canonical in those days. That was their little dabble into mobile. And I use the word little and dabble because it didn't last. But the Ubuntu Linux operating system is still the premium when it comes to Linux.
Absolutely. So, it's the one most people think. I mean, there's Debian and there's all sorts of others. Yeah. Now, the two that I seem to have skipped were, what is the name of Apple's next macOS operating system?
I can't believe you know that already. We got Big Sur. It's only just launched.
Big Sur launched about a year ago. What's coming next week is macOS 12 Monterey, which of course was launched at the Worldwide Developer Conference back in June or July, and they were showing.
Big Sur is the one that's just launched.
Big Sur launched about a year ago.
We're on Big Sur.
We're on Big Sur right now. We have been for about a year.
Monterey. Sorry, I did know that. Oh.
The last question, because Ubuntu was meant to be the last one because of the South African connection, is what does universal control mean with macOS 12 Monterey?
Universal control means that you can move across the different devices. So if you've got one keyboard, you can control your iPad, your Apple TV, your iPhone. They can all work in one harmonious connection. Or your trackpad, I think, as well.
Sure. You can more or less give yourself a pause. What it is so that you can have your Mac, and if you've got your Mac keyboard and your trackpad or mouse, you put your iPad next to it and you move the mouse towards the edge of the screen. Right. Instead of the iPad being the sidecar and a second screen for your Mac, your keyboard and mouse or keyboard and trackpad are now controlling the native iPad interface. So you don't have to buy a Magic Keyboard or one of these Zagg keyboards. If you're just using it at home, you just pop the iPad there inside of its case, and away you go. You can be typing and clicking on things and using things. So anyway, I wanted to give you a big tick.
Thanks, mate. But I'm disappointed. But and this is exactly what happened when Tess first gave me the show. And I love this game show. So to the listeners out there, please send topics, and then I can get people to do questions. We've got to wrap up. We're right at the top of the hour, but I wanted to put this back up on screen. So ascca.org.au for tickets. Please support it. It's fully tax deductible. So even if you're a company, go and buy some tickets for your staff or anyone for that matter. But yeah, I know what these things are. I just never know their freaking meanings. Like even API still trip up, and it's been explained to me twice. I'll probably get it on now. It's automated plugin. You see, it's wrong.
Application programming.
Application. You see, I know what it does, but I just don't know what it is. Anyway, that was a great show, Alex. Always good having you on, mate. And hopefully it's a date. I think 2 weeks from now when the embargoes lift. So it won't be next week. It'll be a week after. Let's do a little pixel show and tell. It could be some fun. We can have a what we thought scenario. So Absolutely. That brings us to the end of it. It's as always, it goes well. This one really went quickly. So until next time, keep your screens clean and your knobs shiny.